Very good morning. Join us in the breakfast show. Remember, today is the 19th day. Of course, the month is March, and of course, the year is 2022. A very good morning. Join us in the breakfast show. My name is Odhiambo.
And my name is Mwita.
Remember, it's also still a nice week. Remember, this is the first week of the KCSE examinations. Since it kicked off, since the entire exercise kicked off, this is the first week. And so we can see they are left with around how many weeks to go?
KCSE usually takes around 3 weeks.
Around 3 weeks. So they are, once this week is complete, of course it's complete. They are left with 2 more weeks to go, and so there's need that they continue, pumping a lot of energy just to see them getting out of it, and not just getting out of it, but with getting out of it with a lot of expectations that something is likely to come.
And we have seen a lot of news concerning the KCSE with some reported cases of malpractices during the exams, and we've also seen the issue of teenage pregnancy per se, of students giving birth while doing
they get to deliver during during the examination,
and the banning of mobile phones from every examination center.
But the delivery cases, of course, they are good as well, provided that they work to the end. Of course, we've seen the Ministry of Education not barring those that are delivering from, proceeding with their examinations. They are given no ample time until that particular time that they'll do the last and the very final paper. And so it's a plus. And of course, it's something that is really catered for by the Ministry of Education, trying to make the environment so conducive just to see them continue with their examination, despite the fact that they get to deliver. Remember, in the first bit of this particular show, we'll be interacting. As usual, it will be a very fast bit of interaction. As usual, what you need to do is just to let us know where you are already tuned in from, where you are watching from, where you are able to follow this particular show from. Of course, there's a breakfast show live from Pure Africa TV, Pure Africa Radio as well. Remember, you can as well let us know which particular platform are you able to follow live this particular show coming to you from. There are those that are using the television screens, of course, those with
social media.
There's also a good number using the social media platforms. Of course, those of television screens, free-to-air satellite decoders, they are able to follow live this particular show coming to you, of course, from Pure Africa TV, at the same time from Pure Africa Radio. Then there's that big group of people who are able to follow one-on-one using our social media platforms. Of course, remember, our social media platforms are already opened just for you to ensure that everything is tailored for you in the real time. Of course, we are here because of your sake, just to give you what you deserve, just to give you that which is supposed to be given to you in the real time. Then there's that good number of audiences following live from our Pure Africa TV official app. Of course, simple, just go to your Google Play Store, type their PA TV official app, and get to download your Pure Africa TV official app. I tell you, with that particular application, you'll be able to watch all the shows and programs, of course, live from Pure Africa TV, at the same time live shows and programs from Pure Africa Radio. And so during the first bit of it, just interaction. Remember, getting to the second bit of this particular show, we'll be getting to the newspapers. We'll be looking at various sections and various subsections of the newspapers, just to see what is coming up in the world of entertainment, in the world of politics, business, as well as sports. Remember, there's a lot that has transpired, especially in the world of politics.
And one week in politics is like a decade. There is so much information, so much news, so little time to give it.
1 week in politics is like a decade. Then 1 day in politics is like a year. So you can imagine what can happen just in a day, as far as the world of politics is concerned. Remember this particular phrase that today we are friends in politics, tomorrow we are great enemies.
Yeah, it's something that has happened, and we have seen it with a lot of politicians who tied to the hip, but then right now cannot even stand each other or keep on throwing jabs at each other.
Remember, we see the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission on Waiguru's neck again.
And there's also the aspect of the case of the Eurobond with CS Rotich and the Kimorel dams being brought up again.
Remember, all these are revolving around the corruption. Yesterday we were talking about the corruption, and we saw that corruption is one such, a big subject that is very weighty in this country.
And I can say maybe the ghosts of those scandals have come back to haunt people that were involved in them, and it's a wait and see. But it's rather interesting to see that these cases have been brought forth just around before the elections, and we can see CS Keter stepped down as a CS and decided to go after an elective post, and it is quite peculiar. And in the case of Anne Waiguru now is trying to defend her governor's seat as the governor for Kiambu.
Remember, she's going for that particular position for the second time. Meanwhile, she is also facing competition. Of course, there we have Purity Girishi, among others. Of course, the other day Martha Karua was also showing interest in that particular position.
Maybe Martha Karua would want to vie for presidency, but yet she has not declared what she really wants to vie for.
Remember, there's a time that Karua had vied for presidency. So we also have a strong woman in Kenya.
Of course. Charity Ngilu also wanted to vie for
Charity Ngilu, Martha Karua, and of late we've seen Wanjiru, Tracy Wanjiru, and that was just a wake up call, especially for the youths. Remember, Tracy Wanjiru is still a university student, a third-year student, but showed her interest. Of course, went up to the very last stage of that. But unfortunately, she had not obtained results, of course, a degree, and that was an impediment towards her getting to that particular position.
So it's something quite interesting to see how it develops in the course of next week, because this is the end of the week. So in most cases, the judiciary system does not work during the weekend. So it's something that we'll see on Monday. See if maybe the charge sheet and what will be happening in terms of the prosecution of that case.
Remember also the KEMSA is on the rise again. So KEMSA is another one becoming so scandalous. Remember the other day there was that particular scandal, and right now again some medicine missing, some of course even the CDs there, we call them
the CDs,
the CDs are also missing there. Remember, all these are scandals just within Kenya, within our government.
Another interesting thing that happened yesterday is that the Deputy President William Ruto talked about how he was the one involved in the delivering of the Jubilee projects, and he said that he changed the building codes, and was because of him 10,000 kilometers of roads were built, and there is the issue of electricity distribution that he had talked with CS Kamau and CS Keter on the model of electricity distribution, and
was this completed during the first term or during the 4 years of L?
Both terms, actually the whole decade of the first term, the honeymoon term, and the 4 years of and then after that he talked about that he was responsible also for increasing contribution to the NHIF, and it's quite peculiar because there has been rumors, and we don't like to spread rumors.
But what about the failures?
The failures, and
because he was also in the government.
He was also in the government, but he did not want to talk about that. But also quite interesting something to see.
Don't you see it ironical that that the second in command, of course, in the government, associating himself with all the goodies of that particular regime, but when it comes to the shortfalls and disadvantages there, he will really distance himself from that. Is it ironical?
It is called whitewashing, because basically what you do is you take all the good things and then and sweep everything wrong under the carpet, and that is what he's doing here basically.
Remember, these are some of the stories that we'll be digging deep into them when we cross over to the second bit of this particular show. And of course, we see CBK to separate M-Pesa from Safaricom.
This has been a contentious issue because Safaricom is basically a telecommunication company, and it's also running on the side a financial aspect of its business. That's the transaction of money in M-Pesa. M-Pesa is basically, as we've known, has been in Kenya since 2007, and it has enabled a lot of Kenyans to send money.
I just realized that there's a big number of, not even a big number, almost everybody in Kenya uses M-Pesa.
Because it accounts for a big chunk of our GDP.
And so they say separating it from Safaricom could give enough room, could alleviate the process of, close examination of that particular sector to see it even help, the consumers more than now as compared to this time.
I think this is something we look.
But do you think really there's inconvenience being made by M-Pesa, maybe by Safaricom, maybe now that they are under almost the same under the same roof? Do you think there is inconvenience, especially on the side of the consumers?
On the side of the consumer, the thing about this is that Safaricom was started as a telecommunication company and was not supposed to be involved in financial matters. But then during that whole change of the whole innovation, they decided that they were the first person to create what is referred to as e-currency, because M-Pesa is basically e-currency. You do not hold it, but it's a figure on your phone that you can be able to transact. Things like Bitcoin that have come through, that is cryptocurrency, and on all that, the basis came from Safaricom. We saw even Mark Zuckerberg a while back coming to Kenya to see how M-Pesa really works, and we have seen it being adopted all over the world in countries such as India, South Africa, in Tanzania, and it all started here. But now basically it has become a financial type of business model, and in that case Safaricom is a telecommunication company and this is a financial aspect to it. So they need to separate the two in order for Safaricom to run the telecommunication aspect on
this one to run the currency and the financial stuff.
The financial stuff
because at the times the inconveniences facing Safaricom itself could narrow down to face the M-Pesa and so they should be treated as two different entities.
There is the issue of creating a monopoly per se, because Safaricom is one of the largest company in Kenya, and it's also one of the highest tax paying company in the Kenya after EABL per se. So now the government is trying to separate the two in order to be able to regulate the telecommunication aspect of the company different and the financial aspect of Safaricom. And we've seen Safaricom getting into loans with affiliation of banks such as NCBA, KCB. In the case of KCB, they are giving out loans. There is M-Shwari. So now it's not really a telecommunication company. Now it has branched out to creating banking services such as savings and giving out of loans. So there is a need to create a separation between the two.
Remember, that is one of the top stories that is given weight, and of course getting to the second bit of this particular show, we'll get there once again to look at it into details. Meanwhile, we are in the first bit of this particular show. My name is Odhiambo.
And again, my name is Mwita.
Remember to follow us in all our social media platforms. Of course, Facebook.
It is at Pure Africa TV. On Twitter is at Pure Africa TV. On Instagram it's at Pure Africa TV. And don't forget to WhatsApp us at 0796840560.
Remember also to get to follow us in our YouTube, of course, YouTube channel, Pure Africa TV. Once you get there, remember to subscribe to that particular channel. I tell you, subscribe, you get much more coming to you, of course, from Pure Africa TV and at the same time from Pure Africa Radio. And not just that, get to download our official app, of course, the Pure Africa TV official app. And I tell you, having that particular application, you'll be able to enjoy all the live shows and programs coming to you from Pure Africa TV and at the same time from Pure Africa Radio. Remember, we are just getting a good number of consumers, of course, giving their feedback saying that this particular application is such a wonderful platform, and so do not be left behind. Get to download your Pure Africa TV official app and be at par with others. Remember, getting to the third bit of this particular show, as usual, it will be such a participatory beat as always, as it has been. Remember, we'll be getting to a given subject of study, and that which is of public interest, that which is of public significance, that particular subject of study, that which is assumed to be or perceived, to affect the whole community, the entire society, of course, the whole country at large. And today, the subject we'll be talking about, will be telling you, or will be introducing to you later in time, even as we continue with this particular show. And so during that time, remember, as usual, it will be such a participatory bit of the show, and you need to participate when we get there. Meanwhile, we are in the first bit of the show. Continue following us, drop your comments, of course. Remember, you can use our WhatsApp number, of course, is 0796
9684056.
Once you drop your comment there, we'll be shouting it out in the real time, especially in the first bit of the show. Is such an interactive bit of the show as we continue with the show. Remember to keep dropping your comments. When we get back, we'll be shouting them in the real time, of course, just to know where you're already tuned in from, where you're already watching from, where you are viewing this particular show live from Pure Africa TV, Pure Africa Radio. My name is Odhiambo.
And my name is Mwita.
And the breakfast show begins. Alright, welcome back. You are listening to the Breakfast Show, coming to you live from Pure Africa TV, Pure Africa Radio. My name is Odhiambo.
And my name is Mwita.
Remember, this is the first bit of this particular show, such a wonderful bit of interaction. Looking at the comment section, I just see a good number of audiences already tuned in. Thank you very much. There I see Director Ezron Maru already following the show live from Pure Africa TV, Kehancha. Thank you very much, Director. That's a very big title. There are some titles, Mwita, that you must just work for. Yeah, you cannot just wake up one day and be called a director or a reverend, pastor,
founder.
Founder. Yeah. But do you really work for all the titles?
No, Mr., Mrs., Miss. That is something that can be given to you at for no reason at all, depending on your marriage status.
Some of the titles come with aging.
With aging.
The moment you get to marry, and so you'll be called Mr. or Baba somebody.
And there are others that come with status, like Mheshimiwa or Bazu.
But in reality, some of the titles are being worked for. Thank you very much, Director. Of course, we see your comment following the show. Monica Gati watching live from Najaf, 964. Which code is that? 964.
Plus 964, Najaf. That is something you have to check for.
And of course, Pure Africa TV is viewed even outside the country, Kenya. And so that's why you'd see some of these other codes. Some of these other codes. So thank you very much, of course, Monica Gati. Then we have Zakaria Makuri Museti, tuko ndani ya show following. Thank you very much. And of course, there I see you, Madam Melody, already tuned in all the way from Mount Kenya University. Thika campus. Thank you very much for choosing the breakfast show live from Pure Africa TV, Pure Africa Radio. Remember, this is the first beat of this particular show, of course, breakfast show live from Pure Africa TV, Pure Africa Radio. In the first bit of it, just interaction, just let us know where you are tuned in from, where you are watching from, and through which particular platform actually are you able to follow this particular show live from Pure Africa TV, Pure Africa Radio. Magoa talked about the use of phones in examination centers.
Yeah, so phones have been something that have been used for cheating for a very long time, and with the advancement in technology, people can in real time send you papers. Maybe somebody can be doing a paper right now, decide to excuse himself for a short call, and maybe somebody else will be able to send him answers to questions that they are doing. So it is something that is good to ban phones entirely, but there is also need to embrace
the other day we saw
in order to curb such situations.
Like the other day we saw a student receiving screenshots of examination papers. You know, this particular individual that once the papers were opened, he took a screenshot and decided to send to this particular student something that was badly reacted to, especially by the Ministry of Education. And I see it was really disappointing.
Yeah, and I see that Magoa decided to ban them completely. And he said even if you are an invigilator, even if you are security personnel overseeing the examination, once the examination starts, you have to keep your phone away from the student, and the student should not even have phones in the first place. And there is also this other situation whereby they were cheating, whereby somebody comes and does the exam for you and not you in particular. And an interesting case
even before we get to there, before we get to that, of course we are getting to that. I remember the issue of money. Money being related to cheating. The more amount of money you have as a candidate, of course, KCSE examination candidate, you are more likely to be associated to cheating.
And that goes.
Try to compare money. The more amount of money you have, the more likely you are to cheat in examination. Is it does it make sense, or is it really valid? Maybe logically speaking,
it is valid because now that gives you the incentive and the ability to able to source out for these cheating materials. Basically,
maybe you hear it somewhere, you'll be very capable not to buy it because it will not be offered for free.
And we've seen in extreme cases, even the headmasters and principals of schools creating that leeway for their students to be able to pull money together in order to buy leakages. And leakages were there in my time. There was a lot of controversies concerning that.
Of course, I remember 2015, it was there. It was there.
There was a lot of leakages in between before Matiang'i took over and streamlined that industry. But
we see Magoa doing exactly like what Matiang'i did.
I think it's more or less Matiang'i left well in place good system. So just Magoa just came over and
what about Ambassador Amina Mohammed?
Over that period, I do not know how she handled it, but I think she handled it well, even though she was taken to another docket, which is sports.
But I feel there are some dockets that need very strong and serious men. You see, sometimes women are perceived to be very soft, especially as far as such sensitive subjects are concerned. They are perceived to be very soft, begging. But here we need somebody who can really use the force.
And it's not an issue of patriarchy or anything. It is more or less we need very strict no nonsense individuals
like CS Magoa, because I remember even the issue of CBC. I think without Magoa being strong enough, then it would collapse. Remember, I said the other day, he said that those that are complaining against CBC, they are wasting their time, they are wasting their resources. They should rather use those resources to fuel the entire process, to see it move from one process to the next. And of course we see it is implemented, it is moving on, and of course some are already reacting to it positively. in contrary to earlier on when they were reacting to it negatively. Of course, we saw a section of the parents, complaining of the equipment, machines, the funds that are needed, saying that it is costly, it's unfriendly as far as cost is concerned. But now we can see their perception, their entire perception is changed again, because they see their children, their kids are already catching up. And of course, they like school. They have become lovers of school. Even those that do not know how to write, but they know once we get there, we'll begin jumping, everything will be okay. And so we see the strictness of CS Magoha has made it to be, to stand out. And
the other aspect, people doing exams for other people.
Yes, we were to come there, exactly.
Initially when these national examinations were being done, there were no photos in front of the paper that you are doing. So what they did, they went and overhauled that and created a situation whereby each paper has a photo of the individual doing the examination. So when the examination comes to you, it has a picture of you there. So in this case, maybe you have a brother who is older than you, but you look similar. So maybe there were issues there. There was a university student who went and did an exam for a secondary student. There was also a son who did the examination
for the father. And that was very interesting.
It is very interesting, and it is quite shocking that people would have the guts to do that, and they know that the systems have been set in place to deter them from doing such things. So again, the education industry has gone through a lot of change, and we are seeing the changes being implemented, and it's one of the ministries that is going through a lot of pressure to change the systems as to what it was before.
And of course, it's a very critical ministry, and because right now with education, with education you cannot even be acknowledged. No, remember, somebody can be young but educated. You would be acknowledged in a very big gathering. In contrary to that old guy who is not educated. And so education is the key. They say education is the key. Remember, these are some of the stories that we'll be touching deeply when we get to the second bit of the show. Meanwhile, we're in the first bit of the show, such an interactive bit of this particular show. What you need to do is just to let us know where you're already tuned in from, where you're able to watch this particular show. Of course, the Breakfast Show, coming to you live from Pure Africa TV, Pure Africa Radio. My name is Odhiambo.
And my name is Mwita.
And looking at the comment section, I see Owino Victory, the oldie boy, already tuned in all the way from Narok, Masai Mara. Thank you very much. Of course, Urun Lein, I see you there. Olga Oyugi, I see you already tuned in all the way from Nairobi County. Of course, that is the capital city. And we saw a lot unfold yesterday in Nairobi.
Yes.
Both the Azimio and the Kenya Kwanza.
Holding out their rallies there,
competing for the capital city.
But as the polls indicate, the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga is a bit on the lead in Nairobi, and the deputy president is trying to offset the lead in a bit of way. But we will see in the coming days more campaigns and being done all over the city, all over the different sub-counties there and constituencies.
Then again we see that tally, of course, that which reveals the competition in terms of statistics, especially revolving within the central Kenya. Remember the Raila's vote in central Kenya versus Ruto's vote in central Kenya. We see, of course, some say, especially those that are allied to ODM leader Raila Amolo Odinga, says that Raila will get it even with or without the Mount Kenya support. But is it really sure? Is it really sure that Raila can actually make it without the Mount Kenya support? Remember, in the Mount Kenya, this one of the region treated as that which has a lot of votes. Remember the Tharaka Nithi County.
So in the case of central Kenya, I think the Raila Odinga needs just a bit of the votes, but it is now becoming a stronghold for the deputy president, even though the current sitting president, that is Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta, has been campaigning a lot for Raila.
And remember, this is the same region where President Uhuru Kenyatta was brought up in, of course, the home region.
Interesting enough, today Ruto will be having a campaign he heads to Gatundu for a rally there in
Gatundu. Now that is the real home.
That is the bedroom of the president, figuratively. In Kamunyu, Mutumo, Kiamwangi, and Mundoro. That is basically in Gatundu, and we are waiting to see the crowd that will come out there, because isn't this a provocative situation? Because he should have at least waited until the election is near to actually go there. I mean, close to the election. But then again, it's a democratic country, and any leader can go anywhere he wants to go.
Remember, despite the fact that president comes from Gatundu, there we also have a very strong supporter of Dr. William Ruto. Remember the party leader for Chama cha Kazi, Moses Kuria. Yeah, right there.
And we saw Moses Kuria telling Uhuru to leave them alone after the so-called meeting in State House that was did not actualize. There were rumors from some of the insiders within the central, some of the leaders from the central region, that Uhuru had called a meeting in State House, which later on the head of communication,
especially this meeting that was trying to invite, governors, senators, MPs, and some top government officials, especially from the Mount Kenya region. But the meeting was disclaimed again.
The head of communication, Kanzedena, came out and said that there was no such issue on a meeting. There was no memo that was put out to call leaders from Mount Kenya to go to State House. And
going by the analysis, you will realize that this is not the first time that such communications are being. So there's of course there's a signal of miscommunication, especially in the department of the State House. Because remember the other day, the crackdown, the border riders and even the drivers were stopped. That operation on the crackdown was stopped. But later, we saw a group of matatu drivers complaining there that they are still being operated. That which was trying to give the two sides, despite the fact that president had ordered, or despite the fact that the operation had been stopped, it was still seen to be continuing. And that was raising a question as to whether there is proper communication, especially in the State House department, or whether the communication is really dying in the State House department.
And we saw Moses Kuria come out again, and he lashed out at the president, told him that he should let Mount Kenya leaders be, because they felt betrayed by him in supporting of Raila Amolo Odinga.
And not just Kuria, we see also other politicians, of course those that are allied to Kenya Kwanza, saying that it is now high time that president should retire in peace and go. Remember Musalia Mudavadi's sentiments the other day, that he should not force Kenyans now with the leader. Let Kenyans choose for themselves.
And again, yesterday the Deputy President William Ruto talked about loan reduction, and this is in line with what the Azimio La Umoja candidate, that is Raila Odinga, said, that there should be a reduction in the amount of loans that Kenya is taking. But then, interesting enough, again that same very day, the IMF gave Kenya around 85.8 billion.
International Monetary Fund.
No, actually it's not the IMF, it's actually the World Bank decided.
Actually.
And interesting about this story is that in the last 4 years, the World Bank has given Kenya a total of 371 billion Kenya shillings in financing.
371
in just 4 years. So basically, in 2021, that is last year, they had given a similar amount, that is 85.8 billion. In 2020, they had given 114 billion to Kenya, and then in 2019, they had given again 85.8 billion to Kenya. So now in total, it comes to 371.8 billion in just 4 years. And
so you can imagine that statistics.
And the reason about this is that Kenya has decided to move away from syndicate loans and expensive commercial loans, such as the ones granted by China, and decided to embrace the Western powers, that is the IMF and the World Bank. But the only condition that the World Bank and the IMF give when they are giving out their loans are considered low budget loans as compared to expensive ones for commercial and the syndicate loans that are given by the Chinese. So Kenya has decided to move away from Chinese loan and has gone back to the West. But the West usually gives us conditions in terms of transparency.
But do you feel that's a wise decision? Do you feel it's a wise decision?
it is more or less picking the lesser evil, because on one side there is the syndicates loans that the Chinese give, which are usually based on a particular project, maybe it's a road project, and they're usually given by commercial banks within China. And the conditions are, we will not follow up on the policy of the country, will not follow up on issues on human rights, will not follow up on how you run your government. What we'll do is just come here, give you loans, build the construction, and you'll have to pay us back.
You'll have to pay back.
But in the case of the IMF, they give money on conditions, on issues on policy. They create conditions such as transparencies, issues on human rights that the country has first to ensure are set in place in order to
are actually met for the loans to be granted.
To be granted. So the loan is actually being given out as a COVID-19 recovery, so that the government can be able to create to reduce the effects of COVID-19, and also to strengthen the government frameworks and the systems within.
Right. Remember, these are some of the stories that we'll be dwelling into deeply when we get to the second bit of the show. Right now, we are just highlighting you about what we have in store for you, but getting to the second bit of this particular show, of course, we look at it deeply into details to see what will actually transpire. Remember, in the same second bit of the show, we'll also get to the newspapers. Of course, we have the Star, we have the Standard. We'll get there, look at some of the stories that are given weight in these particular newspapers. Remember, we'll look at the politics section, we'll get to the business section, we'll get to the entertainment section, and of course we'll see some of the top news stories, especially in the sports section, those that are given weight. Meanwhile, we're in the first bit of this particular show. My name is Odhiambo.
And my name is Mwita.
This is the Breakfast Show, coming to you live from Pure Africa TV, Pure Africa Radio. Continue staying with us. Remember to follow us in our social media platforms, of course, Facebook.
It is at Pure Africa TV. On Twitter, it's at Pure Africa TV. On Instagram, it's at Pure Africa TV. And don't forget to WhatsApp us at 079-684-0560.
Remember, dropping your comment in real time. We'll be shouting it out in the real time, just to know where you are tuned in from, where you are watching from, of course, and through which particular platform are you able to follow this particular show coming to you from Pure Africa TV, Pure Africa Radio. Thank you very much, Derek Barnett. I already see you tuned in all the way from Nairobi, and of course Sir Philip tuned in all the way from Kisaku, second to, of course, in Homa Bay County. Kirario tuned in all the way from Kiambu County, and of course there see Violet already tuned in all the way from Nakuru city, they say, is Nax Vegas.
And I nearly forgot, today is on a Friday, and there is a hashtag that used to trend a while back. It was called TGIF. Thank God it is Friday. And again, it's Members Day. So what are you doing today for your Members Day? Last week you told me that you would be with the family.
No, as usual during the Members Day, of course, if you want to know my best day, it's on Friday. It's on Friday. You know, you are relieved from work from 1 week that has been very busy. Obviously, I'll go see the family, just have even a discussion with them, just a story, talk together. Nothing is more interesting, than spending time with your family members, with your loved ones, and of course all the family members, even the friends, because they would be missing you the whole week, and so they expect to see you by the end of the week. And of course, getting to church is also another important aspect, especially on weekends now. And even party after party is also, remember, all these are aspects of life.
Kenyans call it sherehe. But I think Kenyans like Fridays so much, and they have sung about it. So many songs, artists have sung about it, and I guess maybe it's because the weekend is usually here, and it's a moment to relax and rest for a bit before the most lauded or the most unpopular day of the week starts, which is usually again on a Monday. So anyways,
most of this will be brought by Celestine Gatti, and
Chris Nyabasi.
It's called Chris. They'll be here with the entertainment of course Friday. We expect it will be late. Meanwhile, I'll be tuning into that soon after getting out of the studio. Continue following us in our social media platforms, Facebook.
At Pure Africa TV, on Twitter at Pure Africa TV, on Instagram Pure Africa TV, and don't forget to WhatsApp at us at 0796 840560.
Remember, we are soon getting to the second bit of the show, but before we get there, maybe you can look at the comment section just to see those that are already tuned into the show and through which particular platforms and from which particular courts of the county. Of course, I see there Fred Oliech already tuned in all the way from Kiambu County, and moving forward I see David Osudi also tuned in. Thank you very much. Emilia Tiena, I see you tuned in all the way from Nairobi, capital city. Zomolo Mwita already tuned in all the way from Kehancha.
I see here Dan Mugambi tuned in all the way from Nairobi County. I see Chris Chacha tuned in from Nakuru County, again Las Vegas there. I see Harriet Roby tuned in all the way from Uasin Gishu County. I see Maroa Chacha tuned in from Migori County, and one guy saying here, thank God it's Friday, tuned in.
Thank God it's Friday. Thank you very much, Samson Henry. I see you. Hi, Pure Africa TV, Pure Africans. I'm watching the show and also following live from hometown. And this it's called Samson Henry.
Samson Henry,
resident of the hometown. Thank you very much for choosing the breakfast shows. Thank you very much for choosing Pure Africa TV, Pure Africa Radio, and of course there I see Cyprian already tuned in all the way from Kisii County, and there I see Kwamboka as well tuned in all the way from Nyamira County. Moving forward, I see Samuel Barure. Niko ndani ya show watching from Nairobi following. Thank you very much, Samuel Barure, for choosing breakfast show, of course live from Pure Africa TV, Pure Africa Radio. My name is Evans Odhiambo.
And my name is Mwita.
We are taking a short break, but coming thereafter we'll be getting to the second bit of the show, and of course expect to get the top news stories. Continue staying with us. In a short while we will be back with much more. Alright, welcome back. Remember, you are listening to Pure Africa Radio, the same time watching live the breakfast show, coming to you live from Pure Africa TV, Pure Africa Radio. My name is Evans Odhiambo.
And my name is Mwita.
Remember, we are getting to the second beat of this particular show. Remember, this the exact beat that you expect to get much about politics. Of course, you'll get some of the details about the sports, of course, business,
entertainment.
No, so you are a business person there. Don't be worried. Remember, we'll be updating you on the current trends, especially in the world of business. And having those trends, remember, you can get to formulate your business ideas and to see your business thrive. And so you are a businessman, you are a businesswoman, you are a business lady, no worry less, everything shall be delivered to you in the real time. Remember, we are here for your sake, and this is the destination of your choice for local and international entertainment, as well as international content. And not just the international content, even the local content, it's here. Local entertainment, it's here.
County content,
it's here. Even those that transpire from our local counties, from our local villages. Remember, interestingly enough, we'll also be looking at the county section, just to see what transpires in our various counties. And interestingly, we'll be seeing that particular county that will feature the hottest story for the day. And so continue staying with us. This is the second bit of this particular show. Of course, there's a breakfast show live from Pure Africa TV, Pure Africa Radio. My name is Odhiambo.
And my name is Mwita.
Mwita, looking at these stories, we see some of the top stories that are given weight. Of course, we see EACC to charge Waiguru with corruption case.
That is
remember, it's also electioneering period, and of course these corruption charges, most of them we see being treated as, politics, being politicized. But again, looking at the other sense, some of them could be sensible.
And you see, the case of Waiguru, she referred to herself as a technocrat. Rather, that is a merging of the word technology and a bureaucrat. Basically, she was a bureaucrat that used technology to bring about the whole system. She was first involved in the NYS. She was
scandal, NYS scandal.
Not necessarily a scandal. Initially, she was tasked to change how the NYS and the outlook of the NYS and what it was doing at that particular time. Then after a while, a scandal broke out, as you said, including a system called IFMIS, the Integrated Financial Management System, whereby it was alleged that monies were paid out to non-existent companies that had not supplied any products, and the payments were made, and there were allegations that money was being taken out of the banks with gunny bags, or gunias per se in Swahili. And after that, the case was brought to, she was removed from NYS, and then some few people were charged. And after that, she vied for the Kirinyaga governor seat, and she also clinched that seat. Now, fast forward, she decided that she would be, now she was the governor at that time. After a while, again there were cases to impeach her on, again, issues on corruption.
And so she has just been revolving around several cases.
And then her closeness with the Raila Amolo Odinga ensured that she survived the impeachment, as per Pandits had said.
Because still I remember quite well.
And then after a while, she decided to fall out with Raila Amolo Odinga, and then remember the catwalk statement, statement. So after a while, she decided to go to the Ruto's camp, and then again, that is when all the ghosts of her past started to haunt her. In this case, she's being investigated on the case of 10 million shillings, which was purported to be money.
Remember, it was, to be exact, it was 10.6 million Kenya shillings, 10.6 million Kenya shillings for traveling outside the country. Remember, it was alleged that she was to travel, and that was the reason for receiving this particular lump sum amount of money. But later, she never traveled. And that induces questions, and so we see the EACC now beginning to probe it. Meanwhile, she says that it is a political issue.
It's a political
of course,
issue.
remember, Waiguru is eyeing the Kirinyaga gubernatorial seat. Of course, going for that particular position for the second time.
And she has stiff competition from Girichi.
From Purity Wangui in Girishi. But on the other side, we see the senators. Senators standing with Waiguru, and of course, they say, of course, they have proved Waiguru not guilty of this. And so, between the senators and the EACC, they are like now clashing.
Remember,
but where is the reality?
Remember, when she was being impeached, her MCAs of Kirinyaga decided to camp inside the county assembly and wait for her impeachment. But then it did not go through because she was saved by the Senate. And looking at this, again, one of the reasons as to why she was being impeached again was concerning that issue of the 10 million that was given to her as a means of going outside the country, but she used it in a different way. Again, it's also
remember not just Waiguru alone. She is being charged alongside other Kirinyaga government top officials. Kirinyaga government top officials. And so it's also a question as to whether some of the government officials in this particular county, of course the Kirinyaga county, as to whether they are trying to stand with Waiguru and trying to cover off some of the some of these scandals, especially these that are being treated as corruption.
Interesting enough, we talked about this yesterday, and we say that power protects power. So when scandals do appear, there are people that will come and protect you, and there are people that would want to destroy your reputation or to destroy your political career. Now, in the case of Waiguru, whatever, if this is true, this is tantamount to abuse of office, and again, she should not be allowed to run for the Kirinyaga gubernatorial seat, because again, the constitution says that if you have a corruption scandal,
because right now is our leadership is also questioned as to whether she is she deserves being the top or being the boss of Kirinyaga County, especially following such allegations that are being claimed to be those of corruption.
To view this point on another angle, it's quite peculiar that all this is being brought right about just before the election. In this case, again, this should be something that should have been sorted a while back, maybe a year before. But then again, they say that the wheels of justice are slow and they take time. But when they catch up to you, they'll catch up to you. So the file was there, and she was told that we still have your file here, and you need to show up at the EACC to answer a few questions here and there. But then again, it's also good for our political image, because even bad publicity is good publicity, right? Yeah, they say, you know what, they are going after me because I am supporting the deputy president.
The deputy president, sure, of course, it's politics, here and there.
That is the
this comes from my opponent team, of course. Those my competitors, those are likely to arise. Meanwhile, we see the presidential contestants, not just presidential kind of contestants, but we see different coalitions, different political parties talking about the subject of corruption, that it is high time that they get to fight it. But looking it again on another perspective, we see themselves being involved in such cases. So how do you want to fight something that you are involved in?
And there was also the case of CS Rotich, the former CS for the former CS for finance,
the former cabinet secretary for finance, Henry Rotich.
His case concerning the Eurobond that got him outside is being brought up, and there is also the issue of Kimorer dams. They're still being brought up again. So again, it's quite interesting that all these cases are coming right just because
just realize that corruption cases are just revolving around the leaders who talk about fighting corruption, and so it's very ironical. It's very ironical.
And we talked about
then again you realize that when just a common mwananchi, when involved in corruption cases and scandals as that, it will be pursued to the latter, of course, to see this particular individual brought to book, which is very contrary to these top government officials, top leaders. And so there's a big question as far as how corruption cases are really dealt with, especially in our country. It's a big question.
It depends on the status, and it depends on the amount of power that you have. And we say power protects power. And if we are friends and we walk in the same corridors of power, what would happen is once you are implicated in something, I'll try to go my way to protect you in one way or the other. But in this case, again, the wheels, the cogs of justice are slow, but they will always catch up to you.
They'll always catch up.
In the case of Waluke, they caught up to him, and again, the judiciary system has been under a lot of pressure to prosecute high valued or high profile individuals,
and of course that's why we saw yesterday somebody commenting about Chief Justice David Maraga, former Chief Justice David Maraga, as far as corruption or dealing with the corruption to the latter, then Maraga owes a credit. We saw that comment yesterday.
Evans, you do remember, I would like to pass our condolences to the family of Kibor, Mzee Kibor.
Of course, the chairman himself.
So
we members of men's conference are mourning. It's a very sad moment for us.
And I was following up on the story, and I realized that he was a wealthy tycoon worth around 6 billion, had 26 children, 4 wives, and he was the first person to import Mercedes S classes and Benzes in his hometown, and he was such an interesting man.
So this Mzee was just controversial, interesting, you know. I remember quite a good number of leaders would go visit him in his home country, of course, but they go visit him there, of course, the story, and they believed that Mzee would give them good, you know, some good pieces of advice, especially for the leadership and the rest. But interestingly enough, we see it's like Mzee was very ready, knew anything could happen at any time, because we see in the year 2021, Mzee decided to go for baptism, and remember getting his voice during that time, or getting to his sentiments he made or statements he made during that time, immediately after the baptism. He said that now I'm ready, anything can happen. Of course he said it in Swahili. Sijui nini inaweza happen, inaweza fanyika wakati wowote. So Mzee was very ready that anything could happen, and so according to his belief, once you are baptized and you die at any time, then you'll automatically go to heaven. And so we saw Mzee was very prepared. It said that with the aging, some wisdom would come that will really help you predict the future.
And for him, I think it's a celebration of his life, because inevitably that is part of life as per what it is. And he was loved and hated in both ways, because again, at one time he drew a piece on his son because of family issues, and then he asked, at one time he asked Moi who his successor would be, and was arrested and taken there, but he would be not shy away from controversy. And again, we wish to condole the family, and
because may his soul rest in everlasting peace. We see, of course, Mzee has died at the age of 88 years old. So that's a life celebrated. No, there are those. There's a given age that once somebody would die of, then it will not worth celebration. There's life being mourned and a life being celebrated. May his soul rest in peace.
And so another interesting story is Senator Wamatangi has been kicked out as the majority senator chief whip in the Jubilee in the Senate. And it's interesting because he's a supporter of the UDA and William Samoei Ruto.
Is this politics? Is it politicized?
Of course, you cannot be supporting somebody that is different and then expect to continue to be the majority leader in the Senate. So Wamatangi is eyeing the gubernatorial seat in Kiambu.
For Kiambu County.
Yeah, so I think he said his statement was he said that he did it. It is okay. He joined UDA because the people of Kiambu wanted him to join UDA. And again, you have to, as a politician, you have to listen to the ground and see what is the mood or the temperature in the ground before making decision on which party to follow, on which party to run with.
Remember, these are it has reminded me of last year's reshuffle. Remember the time that Kipchumba Murkomen and the likes of this big team that were allied to Deputy President William Ruto were being kicked out, and it was being treated as politics.
But you cannot rebel within the same party that is running, and you have to follow some decorum, and you have to be in order. So again, Wamatangi, this is not something shocking because Duale was removed and Kimunya
replaced by Amos Kimunya, of course, MP for Kipipiri.
Yeah. So again, the other story is a KWS officer, that is a senior chief inspector's body was found in River Yala,
the most controversial river.
So in this case, again, the family said that they had found the closure because they had not found his body for so long. So again, it is something that the security personnel of the security organs within Kenya need to follow up on where all these bodies are coming from. from, and to be able to give families closure and to be able to solve these cases in order, whether or not they were murders or whether they were just accidental drownings.
And just remember that when a post-mortem is done, you realize that these particular bodies were maybe transferred from one county to the other. So you just you're like worried too.
So again, the next story that is quite interesting is Moses Kuria lashing out at President Uhuru Kenyatta, telling him that he should leave them alone. And again,
especially, Kuria was very angry at this particular meeting that was alleged to be there, but later we saw its cancellation, saying that it was not there, of course, from the State House spokesperson, Kanz Eden.
I think the president is trying to align, or to make the central politician to align with whatever his agenda, which is supporting the Azimio la Umoja candidate.
Of course, it's still the kingpin.
It's still the kingpin. And then we saw elders coming out, Kikuyu elders coming out and saying that they will cast Ruto if he continues disrespecting the president like that. Again, these are just political rhetorics and jabs that are thrown around by politicians, and it happens constantly. So if you take it to heart, as once Mandago, the governor for, is it
Jackson Mandago, the governor for
is it Uasin
Gishu County?
He said that
Jackson
you should not take politics to heart, and if you take politics to heart, maybe you'll get a heartburn or something.
It should be breathed out.
It should be breathed out. Yeah. So again, Korea said that the president should leave them alone because they want to champion their own agenda and see what will happen after he's out of office.
This is a sentiment that has been reiterated over and over again, especially by these politicians that are allied to the Kenya Kwanza coalition. Of course, the other day you saw some Mudavadi, talking about a statement that seemed to be more or less the same as that particular statement. Of course, they want, a president to leave them alone, retire in peace, leave them decide who to take the next government. Remember, because of such sentiments, that's why you see the issue of puppet and the government projects now come in a statement that was vehemently opposed by the ODM leader, even as he is outside there in his 5 days tour, of course, in the United States.
And the deputy president today is headed to Gatundo, and Gatundo is Moses Kuria's constituency, and it's also President Uhuru's backyard or bedroom per se.
Or even home.
Home, yeah. So now it's quite interesting that Moses Kuria says these sentiments just a day before they go for a rally, and I'm sure you will be there. And again, we are waiting for more.
We just expect a lot from there.
Yes,
you just expect a lot from there, especially the statements that will be made, who will talk. Especially, we expect Kuria to welcome the DP in his home county, and home, sub county.
And it's called poking the hornet's nets. Yes. So it's basically trying to provoke the president. And we'll wait and see what he will do about that.
And of course, moving forward to the next story, we see CBK to separate M-Pesa from Safaricom. Of course, this is a story that we had talked about lightly during the first bit, but now look at the benefit. When Safaricom and M-Pesa are under the same umbrella or under the same roof, then on the other side, when they are being separated and treated as two different entities, of course, which one could see the M-Pesa sector being scrutinized well, of course, close examination and regulation.
So there is a body called the Competition Regulatory Authority that manages competition between different companies within the country in order to ensure that monopolies are not created. And we have seen that Safaricom has had an added advantage over the other telecommunication companies. First and foremost, it dominates in the money transaction platform, that is the M-Pesa. Secondly, it's dominating in the telecommunication industry. And I believe this is towards ensuring that Safaricom does not become a monopoly and does not take over these two different markets on its own. Now,
it's too much for the Safaricom.
In the case of the other competing entities such as Airtel and Telcom, a while back Airtel had come out and said that Safaricom is getting an added advantage, that they are given more bandwidth, that there are so many other issues now concerning that. Now, the separation of the two. I support that, because on one case, Safaricom needs to specify on specific business that it's doing. The telecommunication aspect of it should be a telecommunication aspect of it.
Then on the other side, the financial be another aspect.
It will be another aspect. Like in the case of, there's so many multinational or large corporates that usually separate different entities like that. So again, we see Safaricom got.
Of course, you can realize that some of the missed services or some of the problems that would be facing Safaricom, they can as well face the M-Pesa at large. But them being two separate entities, they'll be dealt with separately as individual entities.
And this comes in line with, you notice yesterday the CBK decided to call in mobile money lenders
of course,
to go and re-register again.
Yeah, we saw that.
And in that case, this comes in line with the CBK trying to streamline the financial system in the country, because now we have a telecommunication company that is running as a telecommunication company, and at the same time is running like a financial company, because it is in partnership with two banks. That is the NCBA, which provides Fuliza, the KCB, which gives you M-Shwari, and even Safaricom itself is a platform to save, borrow, just the way banks work. So there is need to be separation of these two entities. And again, we have to consider that Safaricom is one of the highest taxpayers in the country. And okay, there has been a lot of outcry on the issue of integrating M-Pesa services with other competing networks. And in the case of things like Airtel Money and T-Cash, they have been trying to ask the CBK to integrate the whole system so that there can be speedy and easy transaction of money between different platforms and different service providers. But it's a case that we will watch in between this week.
And we expect that a lot to transpire from this. Of course, we'll see how it is dealt with from one step to the next step. And of course, we also expect the reactions from a large number of citizens. Of course, remember Safaricom, of course, is beneficial to quite a good number of the citizens. On the other side, M-Pesa is also beneficial. Some of us, of course, get the double benefit from Safaricom at the same time from M-Pesa. And so we just expect a lot to be seen. Of course, reactions, of course, coming from the consumers who are the Kenyan citizen. And moving forward to the next story, now we see the Kenya Kwanza campaign in Nairobi. Of course, they were led by DP William Ruto. Remember, this was the second day for their campaigns in Nairobi County. And interestingly enough, on the other side, Azimio la Umoja Coalition were also campaigning in Nairobi, despite the fact that ODM leader is outside. And of course, you also see him speaking outside. Now, back to the Kenya Kwanza, we see DP talking about the economic growth, of course, using the bottom-up economic strategy, of course, talking about the small scale businesses, just to see them move forward. Of course, the other day also talked about the supporting the boda riders, so the boda sector, to see that they have the very best conducive environment for their boda operations. Meanwhile, we see the Azimio team now call on DP to resign.
And the reason they are calling on the DP to resign is because the DP has been fighting the same government that is inside, and it makes no sense to fight an entity that you are part of, that you are part and parcel of, that an entity that has given you even the platform to be there, to be able to run as for the presidency of this country. So again, it's logical that if you are against the government and you have been throwing jabs at the government, you have been throwing insults at the president, there is no need for you to stay within the same government. You just resign and then you just vie for the presidency seat. But again, we still have only 140 something days to till the election, so there is no need for him to resign. It would be just for
of course, remember the statement made by Kieni MP, of course, Kanini Kega, the other day, saying that they would even look at some of the sections of the constitution that would enable them or eject DP from power, following some of the recent sentiments or current sentiments is making those that are perceived to be injurious to the country, those that are seen to be ill talking about the country, of course, about the government, which he happens to be sharing the regime, of course, sharing the same regime.
I believe that is too little, too late. They should have asked him to resign a bit earlier, because it's just 140 days until the election. So again, the DP can be the DP until the election, and then after that, the president will change to another regime, whoever wins between him and the Azimio candidate Raila Amolo Odinga.
And of course, those are just some of the stories. Those are some of the top news stories here in the section of politics, of course.
There is an issue of the Huduma number. Did you get the Huduma number?
The Huduma number, of course, I have my card. I have my Huduma card. I remember the first time we had the waiting. We waited until the final card came. Me personally, I have mine.
I also have the Huduma number. But now, the CS, that is Kibicho, the PS, permanent secretary,
Dr. Karanja Kibicho,
was in Parliament discussing the Huduma number bill, and for most people who had thought that the Huduma number had become obsolete, it is not. Kibicho defended the Huduma card.
The same statement was in court the other day.
Defended the Huduma card, and he said that it will not render the Immigration Department null and void. Rather, it will merge the Immigration Department and the National Registration Bureau. Now, he talked about there was a lot of resistance from the Immigration Department because they felt they would become obsolete. Rather, Kibicho defended the Huduma card, saying that it was a way to consolidate these two, and in order to reduce the charges or the prices of having different biometric processes, rather than just having one card that has all your information. Basically, it would have your NHIF, NSSF, your driver's license. It would act as all the services that are provided in a Huduma center, all under one, but under one card. That is why it has that microchip on it. But again,
so having the Huduma number, all other services will be provided under the same card.
It is basically consolidating information from different government agencies and just syncing up at a centralized point. But now there is also the issue of identity theft. What is there to stop somebody from stealing your identity on the Huduma card, maybe getting your biometrics and using it to do transactions on your behalf? But rather, it is quite interesting because there is also the issue of saving, of course, but then there is issue of security. Then there was
remember, it's also very, very controversial, very questionable, especially it being said, or the statement being revisited again just some days to, or just some months to election.
And Kibicho said that you could use it as a means of proving your identity during the election, and he said that right now there were allegations that it will be used to rig the election. And again, there is a statement that wise people say that crying wolf. If you cry wolf so many times, when the wolf actually comes, nobody will respond.
We just see a section of the population, of course, a section of Kenyan citizens, of course, the voters, saying that this particular number could be, could be a given secret, not to messing up the election, voting process, and all those, and other services.
And he addressed us that and dismissed that and said that, the registration process for the IEBC has been completed, and nobody registered for election using their Huduma card. Rather, they use their IDs,
the national identity card. Meanwhile, there's need for clarity, especially from the states that are concerned, from the departments that are concerned, just for the citizens to get full, clear information, even as far as this Huduma card and Huduma number is pertained.
And in my opinion, I think it's actually a really well thought of plan to actually integrate everything, because there's no need for me to have an HIF card, NSSF card, have my ID, have my driver's license,
national identity.
I'd rather all that information be put in one card, whereby I can be able to access and do everything at a go, because they call it convenience, and rather we have to embrace technology for what it is right now, and I think it is well thought of. Now the issue is the implementation and the resistance that is getting,
and of course, always reinsetting change would not be very easy, just as we saw even during the CBC implementation. And so this need for public sensitization, and of course public, creating the public awareness, sensitizing the public on the benefit. Of course, once the public will get to know the benefit, then they will actually respond to it positively. Meanwhile, the force. Of course, we've seen some of the, some of the activities being reinforced, being implemented by force, of course, making some of the impediments. Like the other day, you saw that the threat to resist some of the individuals from bordering public vehicles until they are vaccinated against the coronavirus.
So Kenyans don't like to be forced to do things.
And they need just to be, conducted awareness for, be sensitized, so that they can get to understand the whole process. That's when they react positively to it, and of course they see the benefits.
And we notice that the Huduma number does not work on KYC, that is Know Your Customer. Know Your Customer is a system that is used by banks and telecommunications companies in order to ensure that they know their client and who they are dealing with, whether they are right or wrong. So now, again, there is still that issue. It's not being recognized as an identity, but it's still part of a card that is given by the government to ensure that it is an identity for you. So again, it's a question is, can I be able to go and vote with my Huduma card? And will I be able to if I don't have my ID on me? Because passports, you can be able to vote with your passport, you can be able to vote with your ID, but this is also, and if you look at the card, it's written there, a national identity card. So it's something to see, and there is no need for all that fund that was put into that to go to waste. So let's see how that pans out.
Because remember the other time when it was being dismissed, there were such sentiments as to whether this there were this particular section that were commenting this entire program. There are a lot of funds that were channeled here, but now what is the fate of that finance? Should it collapse that way? And so maybe it coming back or some more explanation being given about it, I know could be a sigh of relief, especially to this particular section of the population that was seeing those funds that actually were funded in Huduma number going to waste. Now they'll come to get more information about it, and so seeing the public funds not being wasted on some aspects or on some activities that would otherwise not be worthwhile, especially for their satisfaction and for their benefit.
The Deputy President met a section of business leaders in Nairobi yesterday, and he talked about he talked about the project that he had delivered while he was in the government, and he said that most of the projects that you see that make up the president's legacy were all initiated by him. He said that he changed the building code with the then CS for transport. That is Kamau. He talked about it, and he said that they changed the building codes and delivered 10 kilometers of road. He talked about electricity distribution with Keter, and he said that the model of distribution that is now and that enabled many Kenyans to be able to access electricity was all his brainchild. And he talked about the NHIF reforms, whereby he said that there was an increase in contribution because of him from 900 million to 3.3 billion. All these were done by him in his office. So
he was trying to reiterate on some of his track records.
And now it's quite interesting that he'd come out right now and say that that all this was for their legacy. And again, maybe this could be for political mileage, or maybe this could be the truth. And again, sometimes when you just put out claims like this, it is good to back up with clarity and to back up maybe with minutes or something of that sort. This can
of course statistics and data, of course that which is very accurate.
But now he's saying that he did all that, and because of him, he has secured the presidency legacy. And again,
but what about the failures? Because in every regime we would see the successes, and at the same time we would see the failures as well. And of course, the Jubilee regime is not left out.
Yes.
We have the successes, of course. We have the failures.
So they told us that they will have stadiums in every county. Remember, this was
the issue. There's a stadium that was very controversial.
They say that in the first 1 year they'll create 1 million jobs.
But were they created?
No. They say that on that time there's also this other aspect. Laptops to children and in the education sector.
And we've just seen there's a new team campaigning against him with the laptop promise, with the stadiums promise. and others.
They also created what we call the youth fund that actually went to shambles and was mad with corruption, the women fund, and then it was again integrated by other things. So again, when you're trying to campaign for people, you'll not talk about your bad sides, and even you when you're trying to impress people, you will not give out all your weaknesses. You give out your strength.
No, it would be clear sometimes. You say, I was defeated to do this and this, but this time around I want to try it hard.
No, it is good to mention the things that you are unable to do, or to tell people that I was unable to do this, and maybe next time I will try harder to do
so we've just seen a lot of politicians, in their campaign rallies measuring on their strengths.
Yes.
Meanwhile, the weaknesses they will not even touch.
Sweeping under the carpet. And in the case of Ruto, he's talked about all this and the project that were delivered, but then again, I think it was in tandem. It was an association between him and the president. Basically, he couldn't have been able to achieve all this without the support of the now sitting president, Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta. So again, putting all that praise on himself is basically beating your own drum. You'd rather you let people talk about how you've done this project and you're the ones that initiated. You'd rather see the CS Keter come out and say, we sat down with Ruto and this is what he has done for us. We'd rather see again CS Kamau come and say that we changed the building code as a result of Ruto. But then this is basically beating your own drum. And again, it is such a peculiar situation because at one aspect he's criticizing the government on the issue of destroying the economy. He talked about it while he was in the US, and he said that the government has let run away corruption and has taken so many loans, but then now he's coming back and defending the projects of the government as part of his own. Quite interesting to see.
And so of course it's now the Kenyan citizen, it's now the voter to decide, and of course it is the voter and the citizens, Kenyan citizens, of course all these projects are made for them, all these projects are being implemented for their sake. So they are the ones to decide the fate of all these particular stories, the fate of all these claims. There are those alleged projects and all those, but are they accomplished? All these promises, are they accomplished? Again, this brings me back to the other previous discussion we had about the choice of the right leader, the choice of the leader who is likely to bring the development. Look at the track record. Look at the track record, not being claimed, but that which has been implemented and is live today is moving. And so those could be some of the factors that could be looked at as far, especially in the electioneering period. Of course, campaigns are held over and over again, but it is now it's now high time for the Kenyan citizen, of course a voter, to decide the entire fate of all those.
And concerning that, and concerning what the government has done over the past 10 decades, actually it's 1 decade. A decade is 10 years. So, we talk about the public debt, and that is the elephant in the room. Basically,
the issue of the public debt, borrowing, accumulated debt.
We can try to pretend that it's not there, but right now we are going to maybe 100% in public debt in the next maybe projection in the next 2 or 3 years, and we are seeing the World Bank saying Kenya is at a good point, and we need to there is under its development policy operation, they decided to give us 85.8 billion Kenya shillings.
85.8 billion
Kenya shillings, and this is referred to as low budget financing. But the low budget financing is built on consensus, whereby they tell the government that you need to do this concerning human rights, you need to do this concerning policy, you need to change the way you are running the government, and they are trying to create the capacity in governance and in all that. Once the government has implemented all this, they will have access to that. That is from the World Bank. And we talked about this in the morning, and we said that this is the 4th loan in 4 years from the World Bank. And that is, in total, the World Bank has given Kenya in just 4 years 371.8 billion Kenya shillings. And it is quite interesting because politicians have been talking about reducing our appetite for loans, but then the World Bank is willing to give us more loans. And again, I said this in the morning, this is an issue about picking the lesser evil. In this case, the Chinese have been granting us loans, and their loans have been quite expensive. They have been commercial and syndicate loans. Now, commercial loans, for those who would want to know, are basically loans that you'd get from any bank But in this case, they are international commercial loans that are coming from banks such as the China Exim Bank to the Kenyan government, and they have to be paid back within a stipulated time. And they actually have very high interest rates, and without the Chinese as a lender, then there is syndicate loans whereby they give you loans for developmental purposes, but then once the loans are given to you, they bring their own engineers here to build the project that they are building. They have given you the funding, they bring their own engineers, so the money goes back to China in two ways. Goes through the companies that are building the construction industry here, and again through paying back the loan. So again, for China, it was more about business rather than creating a consensus. And for the Chinese, there have been issues that these are called debt traps by them. There have been issues that they have been trapping a lot of countries in such situation, and their loans have been having high interest rates. But then the good thing, not the good thing, rather in the case of democracy, China does not get involved in your normal politics or the policies that you are going through in the country. Does not care about human rights, will not care about strengthening your governance or anything of that. It's all about business. But in the case of the World Bank, there are usually policies that have to be set in place. There are usually conditions before they give you.
And so there are clear-cut differences between these particular two organs.
Yeah. So it's something to wait and see.
But which one seems to be friendly? You see, Kenyans would go for the most friendly.
It's a question of the lesser evil, because both of them are evils. Because one of them is trying to influence our policies,
and another one sets a lot of conditions
and interest rates. So again, it's about which is the lesser evil. So the World Bank again and the IMF is still waiting on, and it's a good reason, because they say they were giving this development policy operation. They are conducting it on the basis of COVID-19 recovery for the country. And then again, you have to realize that the West has a lot of interest in Kenya, because again, it's one of the largest economy in East and Central Africa, and the third largest economy in Sub-Saharan Africa, after Nigeria, South Africa, and then there is Kenya. So there is a lot of interest in terms of democracy, in terms of ensuring that their interests are kept at hand. Basically, they have a lot of multinational companies that are based in Nairobi, and this is a hub for the United States Environmental Program. So there's a lot of interest, and they were seeing that we were becoming too Easternized, in the sense that we were going towards China in terms of policies, in terms of partnership. So the West really needed to come back, and there was a case in which people are saying that Africa is becoming China, because much of the loans that Africa is getting is they are coming from China.
From the China.
The Chinese have decided to become again they are,
because we see quite a good number of Chinese also investing in Africa. In Africa, and so there could be some sort of friendly deal between Chinese and Africa.
But the West woke up, because after a while they had abandoned issues on following up on Africa for a while. Even the United States had not been doing a lot of business with Kenya. But then once the Chinese came to Kenya, they did a lot of mega projects, and not necessarily Kenya. They have done projects in Ghana, in Nigeria. They've done them in Malawi and so many other countries. So it's something that we are looking at.
But now comparing the number of Africans, investing in the diaspora countries, and looking at those from the diaspora investing in Kenya, they're trying to rate or maybe look at the percentage, which one would be, having a greater percentage than the other.
The Chinese
for example, look at the Chinese investing in Kenya, then look at the Kenyans investing in other diaspora countries.
And I don't think Kenya is at a point whereby foreigners are going to invest outside, but it happens, and it happens. But it's
we saw the other day claims. Remember the other day that Sonko was being barred from flying outside. Yeah, we saw claims that he was going to see some of the investments outside there.
So again, investments.
But I think the number of these other diaspora nationals are coming to invest in Kenya is great higher than Kenyans investing in other diaspora countries. And of course, Kenyans are trying to measure in the Kenyan economy, first of all, to see it thrive, to see it grow to that desirable level. So that is when Kenyans can begin investing outside. The Kenya want to be, self-reliant. The other day you saw the other article, being self-reliant, of course.
So again, we are seeing that our public debt, because of this, will again continue to increase, and we've seen both Raila and Dr. William Samoei Ruto claiming that they want to reduce the appetite of
and of
loans.
course, in every political regime, in every government regime, we would see the debts accumulating, despite the fact that despite the fact of the alleged debt reduction, would see it increase again. And I remember during the Moi regime, there was a given amount of debt. There we saw Kibaki coming, and Uhuru Kenyatta, and of course, even the next regime, debt is likely to rise. And because Kenya is still struggling, it's not a first world, it's also a second world, and third world, and so there's a still expected
middle income country.
Middle income, of course. That shows that debt is still expected. And moving forward to the next story. Now we see ODM leader Raila Amolo Odinga speaking about the unity of Kenya. Of course, this was yesterday, even when he had a meeting with the Archbishop Justin Welby. He was with Justin Welby, of course, in the United States, saying that Kenya is united, especially after the handshake. And so, to him, the handshake, the subject of handshake, was, a value addition to Kenyans at large, of course, because it reiterated that the issue of handshake, of course, reduced the ethnicity, reduced the tribal wars and conflicts that had been noted there earlier before the handshake. And so, according to him, Kenyans just had to reap a lot from the handshake, just in contrary to what the DP had been speaking about some days back when he was actually there. And this was a question that was seen to be arising, especially from the residents of that particular country, of course, from the nationals, from the diaspora, questioning the subject of handshake, because it is given two dimensions. You look at DP William Ruto giving another angle of it. You look at Prime Minister or the former Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga giving another angle of it. Of course, we see also Raila saying that he is still determined to see Kenyans united, to see Kenya become a peaceful nation, and to see Kenya held together, brotherhood, of course, unity, until that time. That we will get to the general election, and even beyond that. These were some of the statements or some of the sentiments that were being made by the ODM boss, Raila Amolo Odinga. Remember that Raila is still in his 5 days tour. Of course, today is the third day. I guess not third, but maybe the fourth day. Tomorrow could be the fifth day. Then later, he's expected to be back and join the Azimio la Umoja movement, of course, in their campaigns, lobbying for the campaigns that will lead him to the State House, of course, at the August 9, 2022 polls.
Okay, in the issue of unity, we know that in 2007 we had a very dark time as a country. Right after the election, there were issues on rigging, and then there was a lot of post-election violence. We ended up having IDPs, and we had to get the then former Secretary General for UN, the late Kofi Annan. He came here and created a peace deal that was referred to as the Nusu Mkate deal. And again, it is a system that we took over from the British, because when the British came to Kenya, they decided to do what is called divide and rule. Basically, if they wanted to rule a region, they would divide the region between ethnicities, and therefore it was easy for them to rule a region. But again, a people united is something really good.
Very good.
Because
unity.
As a country, we have undergone through a lot of things that
and
have
of
shaped
course,
us.
you can remember the bloodshed during, especially after the 2007 post-election violence. And that stands to be, it's historical.
It's historical
Very
because
historical.
every time now there is an election, there is jittery between there is a lot of jittery among corporations and people,
movement, and these that are perceived to be failures of the government each and every year. And of course, remember the section of the Mombasa Mombasa voters going there to claim that they need to be deregistered from that particular registration or from that particular list of the voters, just because of some of these failures of the government, especially that are, you know, associated with the elections, especially after the general elections.
And you've seen politicians that have been throwing rhetoric so that this election will be rigged and there are plans to rig it and whatnot. These are divisive politics that should not be used. And I think politics that we should be concentrating on should be politics about agenda and what you have to offer to the Kenyan people. The problem about this is that the politicians themselves do not have faith in the system, that is in the IEBC, and these are independent institutions that have been set in place to ensure that there is free and fair election. Now the problem about this is when you throw around rhetoric such as saying that the election will be rigged, these are inciting statements.
Of course, they also incite the Kenyan citizens, of course, the voters as well.
And you've seen it in the case of the United
and
States.
See them react.
When Donald Trump was defeated by Joe Biden, and he went about and said, you know, that they have stolen this election, and said that he wanted a recount in some states, which was done, and then after he lost, he incited his supporters to go and they rioted in January at the Capitol Center, or the Capitol building in the United States, and it has happened there because of inciting statements. And again, you should not be a sole loser. If you lose an election, go back to the drawing board. Strategies again, you still have another 5 years to prepare, then try it again. But then if you come out attacking the same institution that you expect to protect your vote, I mean, it is basically too wrong. And again, these are divisive politics that should not be allowed even to occur right now. What we want to hear as Kenyans is basically agenda. What do you have for us? What will you give to the people? Rather than just saying that, oh, it will be rigged, or this will happen, and this. If you have a popular vote, and if people resonate with you, you will be able to get that seat, whether or not they rig it or not, because it will be something that will be visible, that you have the people with you. And the systems have been set in place. There will be international observers during that election. So again, there is no need to cry wolf before the wolf has come. Yeah, when the wolf actually comes, then people will not believe you. So you just wait, have trust in the independent systems that are set in place, and just carry out your campaign and strategize on how you'll be able to get that seat. Give us agenda, and again, try to convince people to vote for you.
Especially now, it's a ball thrown to the Kenyan citizens, of course, the voters, to decide based on the track record, based on the agenda, and not based on the handouts. The other day we saw kitu kidogo. And maybe looking at the last story, especially also looking at the last story, of course, these are the top news stories that are given weight. Remember, in a short while we'll also be getting to the newspapers just to look at some of the stories that are given weight. We see, of course, political parties registration department are now out sensitizing public, especially on the importance of peace during election. Of course, this is in line to the statement that we've just exhausted right now. Of course, they also speak about the nominations, ethics, of course, when political rallies are being camped outside there, because the lack of ethics has seen a good number of politicians throwing some words that are treated to be inflammatory, treated to be divisive, and the sort of that. And of course, the issue of campaign should not affect other sectors. It's also talked about, because in Kenya, especially looking at those days of campaign, you realize that when the time for campaigns begins, you'll realize even other investors now, they are scary of coming to the country. Of course, we've seen the tourists now being scared from coming, because once they hear Kenya, there's campaign, of course, there's election, then they assume there's war. but that should not be the case.
They
Of course,
should
it should be development.
Yeah.
Election should be development. Campaign should be development, not war, not conflict. And this has seen to scare most of the investors investing in our home country. Of course, this would we see our economy grow, but the moment the investors are scared, then we expect our economy to continue depreciating. So this was
in the case of democracy, it is your constitutional right to be opinionated and to affiliate yourself with whatever party you want, whether it be Azimio, whether you want it to be Kenya Kwanza, whether you want it to be Safina, Chama cha Kazi, Chama cha Mapinduzi, KANU. It is your constitutional right to support whichever candidate that you want.
But of course,
so
ethics,
again, the point should be that we should tolerate each other and just admit that whoever wins will be the leader for another 5 years, and it's just 5 years, and then
accept us.
Accept
accepting is one major factor that has proved to be very difficult, to be very tough, especially on the sides of the politicians, just to accept and
everybody knows that I have won.
Of course, it comes with the time they get to accept, of course, the legal procedures being followed. But it's good to accept even the nominations, of course, next month. We expect nominations, and of course, different political parties are looking forward to free and fair nomination. That is one aspect whereby acceptance will be most important. Because, of course, we have the two options, being an independent or accepting that political, your competitor. But before you can accept, then it is likely to see chaos rise in that particular party, consequentially or eventually affecting even the topmost seats, because the moment this junior staff will be, will be engaged in some chaos down here, it will consequentially affect their presidential elects or presidential aspirants. Remember, these are the top news stories that were given weight in this particular section. Of course, we are in the second session of this particular show. This is the breakfast show coming to you live from Pure Africa TV, Pure Africa Radio. My name is Odhiambo.
And my name is Mwita.
Remember to continue staying with us. Remember, short while we will be getting to the newspapers just to look at news stories and news that are coming up, or those that are featured in the various sections, in the various subsections of various newspapers. Remember, we have the Star. These are the schedule for the second bit of this particular show. Remember, getting to the third bit of the show, we will be talking about a subject that which is of public interest, that which is of public significance. Remember, we'll be talking about that particular subject, that which is perceived to be affecting the entire country, all society, the whole community as well. And so continue staying with us. We're gonna take a short break, but coming thereafter, we'll be back with the newspaper. Of course, we have the Star. My name is Odhiambo.
And my name is Mwita.
And remember to continue following us in our social media platforms. Of course, Facebook.
It is at Pure Africa TV. On Twitter is at Pure Africa TV. On Instagram, Pure Africa TV. And don't forget to WhatsApp us at 0796840560.
Remember also to get to YouTube channel, of course, Pure Africa TV. Get to subscribe to that particular channel and be rest assured of getting all the latest information, getting all the latest updates, of course, both from Pure Africa TV, Pure Africa Radio. Also, do not forget to download your official app, of course, Pure Africa TV official app. I tell you, with that particular application, you'll be able to follow live all the live shows and programs, of course, from Pure Africa TV, and at the same time, Pure Africa Radio. And not just that, remember, having that particular platform, you'll be able to get the latest trends, of course, the latest notifications coming to you both from Pure Africa TV, Pure Africa Radio. And not just that, you'll also be as well able to follow your favorite movies or your favorite series, of course, from Pure Africa TV. Continue staying with us. In a short while, we will be back with much more. Alright, welcome back. This is the Breakfast Show live from Pure Africa TV, Pure Africa Radio. My name is Odhiambo.
My name is Mwita.
Welcome back. Remember, this is the second bit of this particular show because the Breakfast Show live from Pure Africa TV, Pure Africa Radio. And right away, we're going to look at some of the newspapers. Remember, we'll be looking at the various sections of these particular newspapers. Of course, the politics section, business, entertainment, and as well as some of the top news stories featuring in this in the sports section. Looking at the Star, we see the top news story or the top story that is covered right in the front page. We see why Uhuru influence in Raila campaign is outside Mount Kenya. This one subject that has been very controversial, of course. Remember the statement by Moses Kuria, of course, that DP Ruto will never be failed by the members, especially from the Mount Kenya region. And this also controversial to those that are in contradictory to those that are allied to Azimio la Umoja, saying that Raila Amolo Odinga will make it to the State House with or without Mount Kenya support. And so this brings that question as to whether DP has majority support than Raila, has more support than Raila, especially in the mountain region.
And you see, when Uhuru and Ruto became coalition members and rather formed the Jubilee Party, they decided that Uhuru will have to stay in 10 years and then will support Ruto in the next 10 years. So again, Ruto felt that he had been betrayed after he's supporting him for 10 years and then not being supported for the 10 years. But then there is a section of Mount Kenya leaders that feel that there is need to return the favor to Ruto because he ensured that Uhuru got the presidency.
And so there's that section that you are so sympathetic on the side of the DP.
And again, his philosophy of the classism on the issue of the hustler nation and the issue of the class divide has resonated well in the central region.
And of course, central, we see majority from the Nairobi capital city. Of course, majority of them are the hustlers, are those that are struggling, to make ends meet. And so the statement, or especially the classism, would see him, attract a majority of the votes from those hustler groups.
More so, you see people from Central are known for their entrepreneurial spirit, and again, there are people even in Central who are living in destitute conditions and in conditions that are not in dignity. They feel that they have been part of the government and been part of power, but they are not reaping from the same government they are part of. So again, Ruto has been having a lot of influence, and we've seen the UDA's party influence in the by-elections that happened in Kiamba, where UDA won marginally with a few votes against Jubilee. So basically, UDA has a backing in the central region, but we cannot rule out the possibility that this is a swing vote area, and that we do not expect the DP to get all the votes from central area,
and neither do we expect ODM leader to lose all the votes from region. Now, of course, looking at various regions, remember that this time around it is the percentages are more or less equally distributed, if not equally, but you realize that the range is not very big. Maybe on the other side 40%, the other side 60%, if not 50-50. But the election will see or will decide the fate of the two leaders. Of course, they are termed as the horses. The two horses. And so moving forward, we see Kibor prepared for death with forgiveness. Baptism family. Remember, this is a story that we captured on the top news stories. Of course, we saw Mzee really prepared. Of course, after the baptism, said anything can arise at any time, but being baptized is ready for everything. Everything shall go well. Of course, may Mzee rest in peace. Then we see, of course, that was the chairman for men's conference. Moving forward, of course, we see Raila men now vote to lock Ruto out of Nairobi. Raila men now vote to lock Ruto out of Nairobi. Remember, they have been in Nairobi County, of course, for 2 days campaigning until today, that they will be proceeding to the Curious, the Tundu Curious Gatunda. Of course, that's another story that is captured in this particular newspaper. Then Ukraine conflict is now again on the rise. Putin lays demands on Turkish phone call.
So I think he had called the Turkish president Erdogan, and maybe he had gotten, he wants his demands on what he wants in the case of Ukraine. And the demands in Ukraine is that Putin wants NATO to stop trying to woo Ukraine into the NATO. That is the alliance of armed forces within Europe and the United States. And he also does not want Ukraine to become westernized more or less. He wants to be close to Russia and to create a buffer zone between Europe and the Russian state.
And moving forward to the next story, we see Ruto takes fight to Uhuru's backyard as Azimio woes Nairobi. Remember, today they are touring the Gatundu, of course, the President Uhuru's home sub-county. And at the same time, this were MP for Gatundu, of course, Moses Kuria.
Gatundu South, Moses Kuria.
The controversial Moses Kuria.
And ironically, President Uhuru has been the MP for Gatundu South before, and once he left Gatundu South, it was Moses Kuria who took over after him. And Moses Kuria was quite a good supporter of President Uhuru. And as you say today, that in politics, there are no true friends or true enemies. And right now, you are seeing that now he's throwing jabs at a friend and a former person he considered an ally. But now in this case, it's something to watch and see.
Of course, the event will get to unveil itself, and so the citizens will decide the fate. But we expect a lot. We just expect a lot will get to arise from that particular meeting or this particular campaign rally. Of course, a lot from Moses Kuria. Of course, people could expect him reiterating back on this particular statement that was being perceived to be inflammatory, to be divisive. Maybe he'll be speaking about it yet again in public. And so, moving forward, we see Raila will beat you hands down. MP Wahome now tells Uhuru. Now tells, of course, this Ruto will beat you hands down, not Raila, but Ruto. MP Wahome now tells Uhuru Raila. Of course, he tells Azimio.
I mean, those are just...
The moment we talk of Uhuru and Raila, it's Azimio.
In this case, we expect such rhetorics from close confidence and close allies to both Raila and Dr. Samoei Ruto.
Yes.
We expect jabs being thrown from different sides. That is, expect people like Murkomen and Sudi to be able to come out and defend Ruto. We expect such statements from both sides of the political divide, from both Azimio and from both
Kenya Kwanza coalition.
It is part of the election, and I think that is our opinion. It's not a fact. That is an opinion. It is a free and fair elections, and the people of Kenya will decide, not a statement from MP Wahome.
And of course, there's a question as to what weapons will US give Ukraine. Remember, various countries, various nations have always shown sympathy and support for the Ukraine, especially in the Ukrainian-Russian war. Now there's a question, what weapons will US give Ukraine? Remember, US is another state that is well to do when it comes, it's good to do when it comes to weapons.
The United States has one of the world's highest budget in terms of military spending, and it has well-developed weapons, everything from nuclear weapons to fighter jets to submarines to aircraft carriers, and a whole lot of helicopters and aircrafts and missile defense system and all that. So we are waiting to see what weapons it would give, because initially it had said that it would not get involved by the Ukrainian conflict directly, but rather would use sanctions to deter Russia from attacking Ukraine. But right now it's putting a well hands-on approach towards it, and it's sending weapons to the Ukrainian government. Now, it is something to wait and see, because the United States at this point cannot get involved in the conflict directly, because that would be a declaration of war against Russia, and that could escalate things. So, I mean, they are using this as a means of supporting Ukraine directly, but not directly.
And remember, the war still continues. The other day we saw it in a cave. Today could be the 23rd day. Today could be the 23rd day of the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine. And of course, we see a lot drawing sympathy on the side of Ukrainians, because they seem to be the weakening as far as that particular war is concerned.
And close home, the South Africa government has come under fire because of that issue, the Russia-Ukraine conflict.
The Russia-Ukraine
you remember
conflict.
the South African government supported the Russian war, the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and it has neither condemned the invasion of Ukraine nor supported what is viewed as a neutral stand. But now it is under condemnation, and it's being asked, where do you really stand? Because as for Kenya, we condemned Russia, and you remember Kenya is also a member of the United Nations Security Council.
And not just Kenya, many other nations, especially in the East Africa.
Yeah.
And so moving forward, remember, those are some of the top stories, especially in the front page, and those that were politically treated, or those that were in the section of politics. And moving forward, let's switch gears and look at what is happening, or what is unfolding, especially in the section of business. We are getting to the business section. Looking at it, we see World Bank clears Kenya's 80.9 billion Kenya shillings. Of course, looking at it, you see the top boss. We see the boss, President Uhuru Kenyatta's images of course captured there. We see total Kenya's total annual interest cost of the concessional loan is approximately 3.0%.
Yeah.
It's also captured in this.
It's a low rate interest loan.
Of course, it's a low rate interest loan captured in that particular section. Of course, this is the business section. Moving forward, was Co-op Bank, of course, Cooperative Bank. Full year profit up to 53% on COVID-19 recovery.
There is something that has been quite interesting during the COVID-19 pandemic. Banks have been able to make profit throughout, and just tends to show that even when the economy was doing bad, the bankers in Kenya were able to reap out of it. And again, Cooperative Bank is one of the biggest banks in the country, and it's profit after profit, and it's rare to see Kenyan banks making losses.
And of course, it's just continuous growth. Looking at it, for example, looking at the Coop Bank full year profit up to 53% on COVID-19 recovery, you realize that the bank gross earnings grew by 59%.
Yeah.
Imagine 59%.
But you have
and to be exact, it is from 22.6 billion Kenya shillings to from 14.3 billion shillings. That's a big increment.
But that can be considered on the fact that during the COVID-19 there was a bit of slump in terms of profits, but now things are looking at, and it means that the economy of the country is recovering, because banks are also an indicator of the current situation of the economy of the country.
Of course, moving forward, we see pain for Kenyan fashion designers as Mitumba business thrive. Remember, Mitumba business now thriving, and so for the Kenya fashion designers, Mitumba is also being seen to be very cheap, be very cheap and affordable, and so we see it attracting majority of the customers migrating from this fashion design, getting to the Mitumba.
And you see, fashion design in this case does not mean basically people that design for just a few individuals or anything. It's actually large scale enterprises that
very large, of course.
And for them, they need to create what is referred to as capacity building. They build in form of industries, and once they are able to lower the cost of production, maybe they can be able to compete with the Mitumba industry. But the Mitumba industry is here to stay, because the government has tried for some years to actually ban all Mitumbas coming to Kenya. but then again it's a source of employment. Where do you want all these people to go? And again, it is a means to get cheap, affordable clothes as compared to the expensive one produced by the local fashion designers. But then
remember also banning Mutumba could not just be a threat, or could not just be, you know, comfortability threat to these fashion designers, but it would be a comfortability threat to the citizens as well, not just the sellers of these clothes, no, but to the citizens as well. Because going by the statistics, you realize that a good number of population, of course, majority of the population of the Kenyan population now invest in Mutumba. Of course, you know, by the idea of Mutumba, of course, we see them using this particular clothes at the expense of this, you know, highly priced, designed clothes.
And you see, repercussions have to be taken before rolling out such a banning of the Mitumba industry altogether, because it has to be done in phases, and it has to be done within a long period of time. You can't just do it immediately. So
otherwise it will see resistance from different sections of the population, of course. Right, those are some of the top stories, or those are some of the stories that were covered there in the business section. And so let's take this time now to move to the county section to see what unfolds in our various counties. Of course, looking at the top story there captured in the county section, we see Ruto's critics shun UDA, eye other parties for independence. Because so many UDA aspirants that those eyeing seats to choose other options. Of course, these are the critics, those that are criticizing DP Ruto's UDA party, and of course the Kenya Kwanza.
You see, this is to do with the probability of getting the nomination from UDA, and this statement is about his critics, and there are people that are eyeing a nomination in different parties, and maybe they can be his supporters, and they can be members of his party at the same time, but rather people would rather vie as independent or follow other political parties. Like in the case of yesterday, this Maendeleo Chap party say that it will be giving out election nomination on direct election nominations depending on the NEC, that the National Electoral Council of the party. So again, it is contentious, and it's something that we'll wait and see. Even UDA will have that problem whereby some of its members within its very ranks will decide that no, we will not vie with UDA, but we'll support the deputy president, but we'll rather be independent or rather go to other parties.
Right, in this particular county section, we see also Migori County captured, of course, Kuja irrigation project in Migori on a verge of collapse. Government, of course, has launched a 5 billion shilling scheme to put 19,000 acres of land under irrigation.
And again, in the case of something to do with the irrigation in Migori and something to do with farming irrigation in the Migori County, there was also a story concerning the change of farmers in the Migori County from growing of tobacco to sorghum as a result of partnership with the EABL. You know, sorghum is used to produce a popular known drink that is produced by EABL called keg, and there has been partnership with them. And you notice that there was a mastermind company in the Migori County that used to produce tobacco, but then it collapsed. And then after that, there was a gap in between, so now sorghum is coming in. Then there is the Kuja irrigation project that was on the near edge of collapsing. It was used to grow maize and all that, but now the government is trying to revive that.
Of course, to measure on irrigation and some irrigation schemes, of course, to see the economic activities, of course, grow, because once a source is seen to be dying, yet another direction is to be taken, just to see things move forward. And Ebu passed a SAT's KCSE exam 37 years after dropping out in Standard 6. This is a very interesting story, of course, featured in Embu County. Embu passed a SAT's KCSE exam 37 years after dropping out in Standard 6. Remember, this guy of 37 years sitting for the KCSE examination. And of course, each and every year of KCSE examination, there's that particular story that would be, heartwarming, driving people, amusing there. Of course, especially as far as the age bracket is concerned. Of course, the gentleman is captured there. You look at the star, you'll be able to see the gentleman. I mean, very serious, of course.
And it just goes to show that your dreams can be valid at any particular time, and you can go back to school at any particular time.
Of course,
because he wants now to get to that aspect that he was unable to when he was still a child because of dropping out. Now he has been given the opportunity to get his KCSE certificate.
And of course, this could be, this could be a piece of advice to some of the young people, young youth, some students there who have actually they have the chance at hand, but they are not utilizing it to the latter. And so, reflecting on this particular story, they could get back to their studies, to use it maximally and not to regret again, because this could be a sign of regret. I wish I knew. Then let me go back and try, because time is still there. Of course, this John Rutere, of course, is a father of two and a pastor at Yahweh Restoration Assembly Church in Gikuri, Embu East. Rutere is among the 13,332 candidates sitting for the KCSE in Embu County. And so this seems to be the hottest story. Or Embu County is seen to be featuring the hottest story for the second beat of the breakfast show today. Then moving forward, we see 1 killed, 7 injured after lorry plows into a road cleaners on Outering Road. Maybe to look at the story deeply, to get the story, of course, into details. Of course, looking at the story, you see 1 person was killed and 7 were injured in a crash involving a lorry and workers cleaning Outering Road, of course, in Nairobi County. It was, of course, they had done much of the work on the road and were of course, at the Kariobangi roundabout and underpass about 4:30 p.m. on Wednesday. Of course, this particular story was there on Wednesday. Such a saddening story, but of course we see majority survive from the injury. Of course, driver also survived. Meanwhile, 2 people lynched in a Boyd robbery incident in this another particular story. And so remember, these are just some of the stories that are captured, especially under this section. This is the county section. Remember, you're listening to Pure Africa Radio, the same time watching the breakfast show live from Pure Africa TV. So continue staying with us. Remember, in a short while we will be getting to the county section, and today when we get to that, not county section really, but to the third bit of the show, getting to a given topic of subject of study, of course. And today, remember, the subject will be peace and unity, especially during political campaigns, during electioneering period. Remember that lack of peace and unity has seen a good number of investors being scared from investing in Kenya, especially during elections, during campaigns, because Kenya's campaigns and elections earlier on have been characterized by, say, violence, lack of peace, lack of unity, and a lot of chaos, and of course displacement. And so today, getting to the third bit of this particular show, we'll be talking about the subject of peace and unity, especially during campaigns, as well during elections, and also in the electioneering period. And so continue staying with us. Remember, we'll be taking a short break, but coming shortly after, we'll be tackling that particular subject of peace and unity. Continue staying with us. My name is Odhiambo.
My name is Mwita.
In a short while, we'll be back with much more. All right, welcome back. You are listening to Pure Africa Radio, the same time watching live the breakfast show, of course, from Pure Africa TV. My name is Odhiambo.
My name is Mwita.
Welcome back. This is the third beat of this particular show. Of course, join us in the third beat of the show. Remember, today we are talking about the subject of peace and unity, especially as far as campaigns are concerned during this time of the election nearing period. And so, Maurice, you realize that peace as well as unity is very very important, very vital, especially in a country.
And we've seen a situation whereby the country has become all jittery whenever elections are coming into place, and it's not a bad look. It's not a good look for us as a country, because all over we were considered championing for democracy in the year 2002 when Moi left power, and he left power in a peaceful method, and there was easy transition from one regime to the other. But then with time, when it came to 2007, there was a lot of chaos concerning election rigging and issues like that. Many people lost their homes, others were killed because of this issue of peace, whereby we do not want to tolerate each other. And the reality of the matter is, we will all have conflicting opinions depending on who we support and what principle or what political ideology we follow.
And of course, this has branded Kenya very bad story, a very bad history. You know, outside there, outside in other countries, then when you hear the term elections in Kenya, some people will be imagining of violence. You know, will be imagining of lack of peace, lack of unity, lack of harmony, destruction of properties, you know, migrating and mass movement from one place to the other. And this has really scared investors coming to our country. Of course, it has scared tourists coming to our country. Of course, other business stakeholders, it has really scared.
And you see in the time during elections, the business environment becomes a bit, there is a slump and there is a recession because people are assuming that there might be some sort of conflict and people might lose their businesses. And in the case of, you've said, of people moving from one region to another, I mean, it's a free country, and we should be given an opportunity to live at any place in this country, regardless of your tribe or regardless of the region that you come from or regardless of your ethnicity. And therefore, there should not be this divisive rhetoric that is being thrown around to divide the people of this country, because again, unity is really important for this country.
Very essential. Of course, yesterday we saw ODM leader, of course, the leader for Azimio la Umoja movement, speaking about peace, says that he has really struggled for Kenya, you know, to remain peaceful despite the ethnic racism, despite different ethnic groups, different races, and of course different tribals and religions. He has really fought for the unity to be noticed. And of course, he mentioned the subject of handshake being one of the major factor that has contributed to, you know, that unity. And of course, he's optimistic that unity will get to proceed there even after the election, not just during the election, until after the election. And so unity and peace is just one major important aspect to look at, of course, to give a lot of emphasis. Remember also, even during political rallies, campaigns, of course, we've seen some of the politicians using some rude youths, to stir violence, to spur fights there, here and there. And so that indicates lack of unity, lack of peace. A united country, of course, politics should be development. Election should be development. Of course, campaigns should be development. But this is contrary to Kenya, of course, in the past political events, and even now some some shows, of course, of late, but of course we see our leaders now trying to bring the masses together, trying to educate them on the importance of unity, and so of course the conflict is getting to die with the time, and so it's a subject that needs to be spoken over and over again to see it get to be fit exactly how it should be.
And I believe that for any democratic country that has attained democratical maturity, the right of expression, free expression, should be enshrined as it is enshrined in our constitution. Everybody has a right to speak and to express themselves freely, to live anywhere in this country. And at that point, we should not allow divisive politics or divisive rhetorics to separate the Kenyan culture and the Kenyan way of life, because a country united uniting this country is a really important matter. And then there is the issue of the media, that the media should be used not to purvey this divisive statement. In fact, the media should not even allow or should not play clips of these politicians throwing around these divisive statements. And again, you have to have what is referred to as you have to limit what you're saying, and you have to censor some of the things that may rub off badly to other people. There was the issue of ethnicity, and there was the whole concept of tribal politics that had been going on for Kenya for so long, the Mtuwetu mentality. It is us versus them. And I've gone back in the first bit of this show and said that the British introduced this system whereby if you want to rule a people, you divide and rule. And that is why they partitioned this country into different regions depending on the basis of how you speak. Let's go back to our neighbors here in Tanzania. Your ethnical language does not determine some of these things, or your name does not betray.
Yeah, of course, that's one thing that Tanzania is usually the one advantage that it can claim over Kenya. Once in Tanzania, you are a Tanzanian. Once you are in Kenya, you are a Luo, you are a Kikuyu, you are a Kuria, you are a Kalenjin, and the rest. But once you are in Tanzania, you are a Tanzanian. I think these are some of the characters that it's high time that our country get to emulate
such things, because there is that aspect whereby we vote amongst tribal lines and we live in regions amongst on that basis. And in this country, this issue of divisiveness has been there over the years. It's just that we try to pretend that it doesn't exist, but it does exist. And the reality of the matter is, I think these politicians should be dealt with seriously whenever they talk about divisive politics. There is the issue of talking about constantly that the IBC will rig the election. The elections have been rigged before, and in this case, these are creating situations whereby people are thinking that maybe it's people from a particular region are trying to rig us out, or are they trying to change the way power is shared in this country. And then there is the issue of how power is shared in the country. And over the years, there has been this statement whereby that power needs to be balanced and thrown or be given to different regions of the country in order to maintain this unity. But I don't believe that is the case. As long as a leader is a good leader, as long as a leader has shown that he has the track record and has the people at hand, it does not matter what region he comes from, whether he comes from a minority tribe or a majority tribe, it does not matter in that case.
Remember, you can share with us your comments, especially on this particular subject on the table. This is unity and peace and unity. This peace and unity, especially during the campaigns, during nominations, during elections at large, because this is the time that the country needs to be united like never before. And of course, most of our leaders have been talking about the unity in their political rallies, in their political campaigns. But do you see the country united to the latter?
Or
that's now the question.
After the election,
do you see the country united, or do you see the country being united the same way it is now until at that time we'll get to election? Share with us. Remember our WhatsApp number.
WhatsApp number is 0796840560, and on Facebook you can find us at Pure Africa TV, on Twitter at Pure Africa TV, on Instagram Pure Africa TV.
And of course you can drop your comment following us in YouTube, and once you get there, subscribe again to that particular channel. Remember to drop your comment in a line to the subject on the table today. This is unity and peace, or peace and unity, especially concerning elections, nominations, of course, political campaigns, especially during political campaign rallies. Mwita, this is not the time, to throw stones at leaders.
Yes, yeah.
It's very disappointing that you realize in some political, political gatherings or political campaigns, you still realize stones are being thrown, and the sort of those rejecting openly some of the leaders, shouting.
The case of Jaguar.
I think it's good. It's good you just it's good you listen to somebody's, listen to his agenda. After all, what will get to separate you from that particular individual will be your vote. No need to shout, no need to throw stones and all those.
And in Kenya, we should allow people to express themselves. As I've talked about, with the freedom of expression, to say whatever they want to say, as long as it's not divisive, and as long as
it's not injurious to any other person. Yeah.
Because if I'm coming here to talk about my agenda, and we've seen there is this rhetoric whereby some of the politicians, the only way they know how to set off their agenda or to campaign for themselves is attacking other politicians, and that is creating a divide. That their supporters are feeling that it is us against him, that he has done this and is trying to do wrong to us. But now,
and relating it to the subject of unity, you realize that such political leaders have, you see, they are the ones that have actually created that thing in the minds of the these grassroots citizens, in the minds of the voters, and so they begin to divide themselves based on the political parties, and there we see unity, finally fading out. And so it begins from our political leaders, to do their campaigns, in unity. Of course, it's a competition, but it should be, a fair and free competition. But the moment you attack it with anger and throwing some words that could be inflammatory or some words that could be divisive, remember, your allies or those politicians that are allied to you will begin to separate themselves from that other party, of course, and they'll look at them as enemies, not competitors but enemies. See, there are two different enemies. There's a big difference between competitor and enemy. And so the moment anger comes in, then you stop viewing them as your competitors, of course, political competitors. You begin to view them as your enemies, which should not be the case. And of course, you, for example, I was your supporter. You've termed them as your enemies. Immediately, I'll also see them as enemies, and the war begins, and it will be a fight, which should not be the case.
You notice that that with power comes responsibility, and in power, politicians have the power on this basis. They influence the public perception, they influence the views of the public, and they need to realize that their words have weight, and whatever you speak may influence the view of a person towards their neighbor. Whatever you say can incite somebody to do something to their neighbor for no reason at all. And in the sense that, as we've said, that there is freedom of expression, there is also responsibility that comes towards that freedom of expression. We do not want divisive rhetorics being thrown around. We do not want politics of jabbing each other and saying that he has done this and this and this, that it is us against them. We want agenda. We want you to sell your agenda, your manifestos, and what you will do to the Kenyan people. Because gone are the days whereby you'll say that it's ni mimi, huyu ni mtu wetu, it is us against them. No, we want now agenda. In the case of the youth, many of the youth have had that apathy because they feel that politicians have been dividing them, because they have friends from different regions and they have friends from different ethnicity that they have grown with, and then to try and say that it is us against them. Your true friend is the person that you know and is your neighbor. So in this case, unity is an important thing for this country, and it's something that should be championed. In fact, that should be one of the campaign key points within this country. And again, it shouldn't be an issue against us, against them. Rather, what will you do for the Kenyan people in order to bring them together, in order to help this country move forward in the 21st century?
It should be actually the competition of the agenda, political agenda, exactly. And so whatever you lay on the table. Remember, we are in the last bit of this particular show, of course. This is the Breakfast Show, live from Pure Africa TV, Pure Africa Radio. My name is Odhiambo.
My name is Mwita.
Of course, Mwita here. Remember, You can as well drop your comments. You can drop your comments. We are just headed to the end of this particular show, but before we call it a breakfast show, we need to read your comments there, especially pertaining to this particular subject of study. And so continue staying with us. We are taking a very short break, but coming thereafter, we will be shouting your comments, especially relating to this particular topic of study. And remember, today we are talking about the subject of peace and unity, especially as far as elections are concerned, as far as nominations are concerned, as far as politics, campaigns are concerned, all over there. The subject is peace and unity. And most interestingly, Mwita, you realize that there is just a good number of leaders outside there, despite the fact that they campaign, they get to times, greet each other, you so spend together, but whatever they have spoken from their mouths have really induced these other individuals to begin warring conflicts, especially their supporters. Then see their supporters really divided, but upside there, they are shaking hands, they are greeting each other, they are very happy, and that is not expected.
Yeah. So again, it is a very interesting topic, as you said, on the issue of unity. Remember, my statement would be that remember that after the elections, life continues.
Absolutely.
And these individuals are here to ask for a job from you. They're not here to influence how you live, but rather try to make your life better. So before
Precisely.
all that
life.
you have to consider such statements. There is life after
life
election.
Continues even after death. After elections. Thank you very much. Continue staying with us. We are taking a very short break, but coming after, we'll be shouting your comments. Of course, we'll be passing through the comment section to see some of the comments. My name is Odhiambo.
My name is Mwita.
In a short while, we'll be back with much more. Right, welcome back. Remember, this is the Breakfast Show coming to you live from Pure Africa TV, Pure Africa Radio. My name is Odhiambo.
And my name is Mwita.
Remember, we are in the third and the last bit of this particular show, and today the subject on the table is the subject of peace and unity, especially during elections, during nominations, and of course during political campaigns. Remember, we promised that we'll be back and read some of your comments before we can finally call it a show. Looking at my comment section, of course, I see Christine, of course, from Mama Bay County saying, let leaders take the lead. Yeah, because most of the majority of the citizens, of course, they are seen to be following exactly what their leaders do.
James Ndio from Nairobi County is saying that it is election season and the elections are coming and going, but peace and unity will remain. So there are optimistic Kenyans that are seeing that we are becoming more united as time goes by. And again, this is the 21st century. We shouldn't go back to ways and things that may destroy our countries as far as we brought it.
Remember, with the violence, everything will be seen to be destructive. The violence, of course, will destroy everything. That which you've really decided to, you've really decided to spend, you've really decided to invest it, to see it growing. With the violence, it can easily be destroyed. And so, embracing peace, unity, love, this is the time to do it like never before.
And you see Maggie Meroro saying that the politicians should watch what they are saying and should keep their words censored. So,
and of course, going by these comments, we see several eyeing the politicians or targeting the politician. And so it goes without us saying that politicians, maybe some of the politicians, have failed to exercise that role of appropriately leading their followers. Because the moment they they begin to create an enmity there, anger, that is exactly what their followers will get to follow. There's John Otieno saying we believe it will be. John Otieno believes that peace finally will continue until election and everything shall be peaceful. That's wonderful. Of course, going by the comments there, I see Njoroge commenting that stone throwers are from Nyanza, saying that the Nyanza are disappointing them. Of course, remember even this year, was it Kisumu,
Mamboleo? But we've seen that happen even in Githurai,
even in Nairobi.
In Nairobi,
so do you want to say that even Nairobi, they are not that I'm defending my Nyanza people, of course, or the Luos, but it's something that has been, of course, it's political. But we don't support it.
There is the issue of stereotyping people depending on where they come from. You'd say that, people from that region do this and this, people from this.
They are the stone throwers.
These ones are thieves and what and what not. And those are divisive issues that should not be used. And again, throwing words and abusing each other as politicians. That is something that we are insisting and saying that we do not want in this particular election, because this is the 21st century and this is this type of politics is already outdated and should not be used anymore. Rather, give us agendas, give us what you'll do for us, and show us your track records.
Of course, that's what we must have to say when we come to the end of this particular show. Let's look at the track record. This is the time to embrace unity, peace, tolerance. Remember, just like a comment made by there's another comment from your section that life will continue. Everything will come and pass. Life will continue. Yeah, so remember, there's life even after the elections. There's life after the nominations. There's life after the campaigns. And so let's embrace unity, brotherhood, and most importantly, of course, I see a comment before we can there's that prayer is deserved. Prayer is deserved. And so it's also a call on the religious leaders, spiritual leaders, to keep the country in prayer, especially during this particular time. And of course, that's also a comment that is given by one of the listeners or one of the viewers. Actually, maybe your final comments if we even as we get to the closure.
Final comment is that again, it's a repetition of what you've just said. Life
Continues
after the election. And again, this conversation, you can keep this conversation going on all our social media platforms, and we'll be able to get back to you. We just want to sensitize the people that there is more to life than these elections, and there is more to life than conflict every time. Rather, unity is strength. And there is a Swahili saying, umoja ni nguvu,
utengano ni udhaifu. Of course, that will be our comment for today, the last comment. Life after elections. It will be the hashtag. It will be the hashtag for the third beat of this particular show. Life after election. Thank you very much for staying with us right from the first beat of the show. Of course, the second beat, you are with us. Thank you very much for the consistency. Of course, in the third and the last beat, we've seen you participate actively. Of course, comments there. Thank you very much. Of course, you've really participated actively, and so I would fail if I fail to recognize you, if I fail to shout a big thank you for your support throughout the breakfast show. Of course, my name is Odhiambo.
My name is Mwita.
Continue staying with the Pure Africa family. Remember, there are just some programs and shows that are coming even after this. They say today is thank God it's
Friday.
TGIF, and so we wish you the best TGIF. Of course, we must thank God. Remember, also today it's the Members Day, and so plan to join your members. Of course, spend well, and so we would wish you the best weekend. It's weekend. You just enjoy your weekend there, but most importantly, get to stay safe. Remember, a lot will be unfolding over the weekend.
The weekend is usually
we'll always be there just to gather for you whatever will unfold during the weekends. Of course, in the political arena, we see much unfolding on a daily basis as far as politics is concerned. And so don't be worried. On Monday we'll hear back right in time at exactly 7 o'clock in the AM, just to give you whatever shall transpire over the weekend. My name is Odhiambo.
My name is Mwita.
Have a very wonderful weekend. I would say goodbye.
Goodbye.